you could see that when back in January or February, when Jesus was out for that gap, Martinelli also was not did not get a lot of goals.
I think Nketiah is definitely a better player than Nicholas Jackson, just because he's more seasoned. He has had a lot more time in the Premier League and in the top division.
The main issue with Jesus is staying fit. He's he keeps getting recurring issues and losing a lot of time.
I never thought that Pep Guardiola would ever play with Haaland. Like, this was the man who started the whole false nine revolution. Strikers were not finding jobs because of him.
I think Ivan Toney is an amazing player. I think I'm a big fan of Ivan Toney, ex-Newcastle player. We should have never sold him. One of the biggest blunders we did.
Deepak's gonna hate me for this, but if you ask me who would be the best striker, probably would be Alexander Isak. I think he is the sort of player that...
Pack your dreams away, guys. End of conversation regarding Alexander Isak.
I think Odegaard has been a great signing for 30 million from Real Madrid. I mean, he got us 15 goals last season.
Hello. Welcome to the Global Footballer Podcast. I'm Monish, with me is Deepak and a very special guest indeed, Arsenal fan Arafat. So, Arsenal flying high this season, last season's runners-up, leading for the season for quite some time and finally pipped by Manchester City, who have just beaten Manchester United. Let's talk about the Arsenal squad, the Arsenal team, the way Arsenal are playing, and especially their manager, Mikel Arteta. Arafat, so hi, how is it? Recent win again, 5-0 against Sheffield United. What do you think about the game?
Hi guys, thanks for inviting me to the podcast. Big fan of you guys and the podcast.
Our only fan.
It's my second favorite podcast after The Rest is Football. So, yeah, just below.
But just to remind everybody, you are our only fan, so we'll take solace in that. Thank you, Arafat.
Also, The Rest is Football is easily our favorite podcast. Anyways, like, you can't beat Micah Richards' laugh, man.
Also, you can't beat Alan Shearer. Just FYI, Alan Shearer.
Oh.
Just in the program.
Yeah. Newcastle plug in there by Deepak as usual.
Yeah. As you've realized, I'll try and steer every conversation to Newcastle, Arafat.
Towards Newcastle.
10-second warning into the podcast, so...
No problem.
So let's move on away from Newcastle United and about Eddi Nketiah and this Arsenal team. I was always mentioning, I think if you have listened, that I was worried Arsenal didn't really have the goals this season. They were getting goals from, different players, but Eddi Nketiah wasn't looking on song for them. And they were obviously missing Saka for some time, Martinelli for some time. But that last game, I think... it's important to have that striker who can unlock defenses and at least make sure that the team is comfortable, that they can win against the easier teams, because Sheffield United, let me add, was an easier game, but winning 5-0, stamping the authority, Arsenal really putting it back. So Arafat, what do you think? Your thoughts about the game?
I was at the game yesterday actually, and you could see that, there has been a running theme throughout this season where Arsenal have been kind of, blunt in their attack, a little flat in terms of attack and in possession, kind of more of sideways and backward passing instead of an incisive game. But I think that's most likely due to the fact that a lot of the teams have kind of gotten used to the way, or have figured out the way Arsenal play and gone for a mid or low block. And the first half an hour, you could see that the fans were getting a bit restless. We are having like maybe 80% of the ball. Sheffield were barely getting anything, and we still could not get into the box. And it took maybe like a Bergkamp-esque touch in the box by Nketiah to unlock their defense. And I think that's what Nketiah has been offering time and again. Even last season when Jesus was injured, a few times he came on. He has excellent touches in the box. He turns away from the defender, the centre backs a few times. I can remember one game against West Ham last season. Also, he did the same thing. Great movement in the box. So I think that's something that he offers. He is not maybe Arsenal also do not really consider him as the the main choice centre forward. Of course, Jesus is in that role, but as a squad player, he's been doing very well. He did very well when Jesus was injured last season, and he had a great start to the league this season. And yesterday was just a great game. 3 goals. All the 3 goals were different kinds of goals. One, like I said, was a very deft touch in the box. Second one was again good movement in the box. He kind of peeled away from his marker and managed to poach a goal. And then the third one was just absolutely brilliant strike from like 25 yards out. So he's been good. I do not necessarily think he's the person who would take Arsenal to the next level, but he's a great squad player, and he's one of Arsenal's Haaland graduates. So it's very pleasing to see somebody like that, and it's, I think, very pleasing to the upcoming talents in Hales, and to see somebody like that who works hard and who's been getting the minutes for the team.
So, as you said, Eddi Nketiah's 3 goals were ridiculously different. The first one was very deft, second one was a pure poacher's finish, the third one was pure power. But
Yeah.
so he's showcased a lot of different attributes and traits in all those 3 goals. But you
Yeah.
still say he's not your number 9, or he's not good enough to lead the line. What more
Yeah.
does he need to do? He's doing the best he can, and he's scoring some fantastic goals and digging you out of difficult situations.
Arafat, let me warn you. This what more he does he need to do is Deepak's go-to phrase, especially when you bring up his favorite manager, Eddie Howe.
Again, if I don't say something, Monish will say something. But besides that, just regarding Eddi Nketiah,
Yeah.
does he require
No, that's
a good few
that's a
games?
good question, but I think the way Arteta wants a number 9 to perform is more or less like a false 9 sometimes. Come deep, get the ball, feed the wingers, and one of the reasons Gabriel Martinelli had whatever 10 15 goals last season is because Jesus was able to supply on that side, and you could see that when back in January or February when Jesus was out for that gap, Martinelli also did not get a lot of goals because he did not have that Jesus effect to help him through. So I think that's one of the things with Nketiah. Plus, I mean, yesterday Eddie was very confident. He finished really well, but there are some games where you could have, you could see that, he left a little more
He's
to be
not the
desired.
best finisher, is he? Not the best finisher.
Yeah, he's in some games definitely he did not. He left a lot to be desired from his finishing. But yeah, I mean, if he keeps his confidence up like he did yesterday, and he keeps scoring goals, then I think he will start more games than on the bench.
Deepak, question for you. Now you've always been comparing Nketiah and Jackson, the Chelsea striker. Yesterday's game, probably Nketiah showcased his talent, his full range of ability. Both of them have excellent skill on the ball. They are really good, deft touches in the box. They can dribble past players. But Nketiah seems to be scoring goals. Do you think that Nketiah definitely is now a better player than not just Jackson, but also do you think that, I mean, as an outsider's point of view, not an Arsenal fan, do you think Nketiah would be better than Gabriel Jesus for this Arsenal squad?
I think Nketiah is definitely a better player than than Nicholas Jackson, just because he's more seasoned. He has had a lot more time in the Premier League and in the top division. Nicholas Jackson literally had one full season last year, and on the basis of that, Chelsea ended up buying him, which is not unlike Chelsea. But either way, he's just not had enough time to acclimatize himself to the highest level of the game. Nketiah has had that time over the years. He has grew into this Arsenal squad year on year, having more time every season. And I think he now sort of feels taking that number 14 jersey in itself, growing up as an Arsenal fan, must have meant a lot to him. And that probably shows his confidence levels also. He sort of believes that he deserves to be here and he deserves to lead the line. I can completely understand there are questions about whether he's absolutely that caliber of player that Arsenal deserve to lead the line, but either way, I think confidence levels wise, being able to play in a system that he completely understands, knows for many years, Nketiah's miles ahead of Jackson.
What about leading the line for Arsenal over Gabriel
Um,
Jesus?
I think Arafat made a very strong point about Jesus' work rate is unquestionable. I think he puts himself about anywhere he plays, whether he plays on the right wing, whether he plays center forward. He puts himself about a lot, and that's invaluable for a manager, especially a manager like Arteta who values pressing from the front and sort of pinning the ball high in the opposition's third and starting attacks from there. I think in that system, you're right. Probably Jesus fits a lot better than Nketiah, but Jesus has had injury problems. Uh, that's an understatement of the century. Has had injury problems, but still,
Yeah.
he's still struggling from that. Yeah, and I think Nketiah will get a lot of chances, and perhaps if he can improve that part of his game, he'll probably be leading the line. Who knows?
So
Yeah,
Arafat,
if the main issue with Jesus is staying fit. He's he keeps getting recurring issues and losing a lot of time, and thankfully with I wouldn't say papering over the cracks, but I think Nketiah this season at least for the first few games in August when Jesus was not around, and now I think the first game but after Jesus is again off with an injury. Nketiah has done really well. So I hope Eddie keeps that confidence up. I mean, from many reports, he's one of the hardest working players in training as well. So I hope he keeps that spot because there's a lot of chat amongst Arsenal fans of going for Ivan Toney in the January window, or next summer going for Evan Ferguson. But what are your thoughts on either of those? So let's start with Ivan Toney at least. What do you think? Do you think he'll fit in an Arteta system? Do you think um, he will he'll be what Arsenal is missing?
it's not about what Arsenal is missing. Honestly, I never thought that Pep Guardiola would ever play with Haaland. Like, this was the man who started the whole false nine revolution. Strikers were not finding jobs because of him, and then he goes and brings out a pure out and out striker. It's unheard of. Mikel Arteta, the factor that he has worked under Pep Guardiola, people try to compare their styles, but their styles do have some differences. However, I'm sure now, I won't say Ivan Toney is going to be the solution to all your problems, but it's always good to have a different sort of striker. And Ivan Toney is different from the other two. Uh, every great team has different ways or methods of unlocking defenses and scoring goals. And Haaland basically gave Guardiola that last season when he was trying to win the Champions League. I think Arsenal now, they were, now that, like you mentioned, that the fact that Martinelli is not getting on the ball because Jesus is injured, but also there is a fact that the teams now know where the penetration is coming from and they're defending accordingly. They're learning how to play against Arsenal. So Arsenal needs something new. Ivan Toney is a route one target man, but he can bring in those goals. He can muscle out the players, especially when they start crowding in the defense. So that's there. It's a different sort of attacking option, but how costly he is, and is he expected to start every game? I'm not very sure. I think considering Arsenal and the style that they're playing, he's definitely not the number one option. I'm not very sure. Deepak, what about your thoughts? Who do you think would have suited Arsenal, or do you think Ivan Toney is the best option?
I think Ivan Toney is an amazing player. I think I'm a big fan of Ivan Toney. Ex-Newcastle player. We should have never sold him. One of the biggest blunders we did. But yeah, either way, he's so good. He has, most importantly, I think he has the arrogance to play for a big club. He knows that he's good,
That he
and that
does.
makes a difference. Yeah, that makes a difference in this level. Evan Ferguson, the difference for me, he fits into that system really well, and I think Evan Ferguson has a really good future ahead of him. But I don't know whether for Arsenal they are at that precipice of going for big titles and being a club which is constantly winning. They are not trying to get to that point. Their next step is just winning. They are not trying to build a team.
Exactly.
So when they are just trying to be winners, they need to get a player of that caliber. They can't bring in an 18, 19, 20-year-old and try to bed him into a system for 2 more years. That doesn't work. They need to have a completely proven, ready-made player who gets them the title. That's all they need. And I think Ivan Toney is a much better fit than Evan Ferguson for that reason.
Yes, I agree on that, Deepak, totally. There's just one more concern. Also, this is about Mikel Arteta as a coach. Let's discuss about him. Do you think Ivan Toney, the sort of player he is, the character he has, do you think he would be easily managed by Mikel Arteta, or do you think he would listen all the time to Mikel Arteta? Because
I think
Arteta is quite
Arteta
demanding.
has quite. They have quite big characters in the dressing room, don't they? Even Zinchenko, to be fair, is a character off the field,
Zinchenko is,
particularly
yes.
vocal in lots of areas. And
Toney is-
even Declan Rice is a character. He intentionally bought Declan Rice in to fill that character void. Toney probably is a step further, but
A step further,
I don't-
definitely.
but yeah, you can tell us more, Arafat, on what you think of Arteta.
I think, okay, Deepak's gonna hate me for this, but if you ask me who would be the best striker, probably would be Alexander Isak. I think he is the sort of player
Sorry.
that.
Pack your dreams away, guys. End of conversation regarding Alexander Isak. He's going
But just
nowhere.
be honest, just being
There were
honest.
murmurs of Alexander Isak to Arsenal. I
Yeah,
think
there were
the
major
the
rumours,
window
I remember.
before,
Yeah, the window
before.
before we signed him. He was
Because he has
driving
the
around
quality
London
on the
in a
ball.
Isaac number plate and everything, right? It was pretty much done. I think last moment it fell out or something. Good for us, anyway.
Yeah,
But almost anyone and everyone is linked with many clubs every window.
yeah. Except Manchester
But-
United. We're not even being linked to players anymore.
You guys get linked and you guys buy players, but then you kill their careers off. So
Yeah, I think some of them no, but you know the good thing Eric Ten Hag has done is he's not really killed anyone's career. They were already on the downtrend. Okay, maybe Sancho's. I'm not sure Mason Mount really had all that quality. Just being honest, nobody wanted him. I'm surprised that so Deepak, let's talk about Arafat. What do you think about Mikel Arteta as the manager? I mean, what do you think about him? I know you love him. What is the one grouse that you think he could have done better, and what is that one position you think Arsenal could probably do well recruiting? Basically, all the improvements that are required in this Arsenal team.
Yes, I mean, I think Arteta has done a fantastic job from from the time of last few years of Wenger's tenure, where we were quite miserable. With Unai Emery, I think we started pretty decent the first season, but after that, again, it's just miserable to watch. And he took his time. I'm glad the club gave him that time. But he has brought about a cultural change in the whole club, not just within the team. He cleared out a lot of deadwood from the team. He took some massive calls of first getting rid of Ozil, who was a fan favorite, a massive fan favorite. I mean, he had a love-hate relationship with the fans, basically, Ozil, and he first took him out, and then he took a huge call of getting Aubameyang, who was a club captain at that point of time, out as well. So he brought a lot of positive change and in the club. He got the fans connected to the club as well, in terms of fans engagement during the games. He got fans engaged even beyond match days. So he's done a great job. Of course, he is inexperienced as a coach and as a manager, and you can sometimes see that little bit of little inexperience. Often, a lot of people keep talking about how he's so emoted and he's so emotional on the pitch side, keeps jumping about for each and everything.
But that's something that Jurgen Klopp still does after winning everything. And so
yes,
does David
and
Simeone. So
and
And
I
so does
much
Guardiola.
rather
definitely.
Yeah, I much rather a coach who shows his emotions on the pitch side than sulks away on the bench like a few others do. So he's done a great job. I think last year, especially the second half of the season, I felt a lot of his substitutions were a bit one-dimensional, very like for like substitutions, which made us extremely predictable by the end of the season, and especially with the injury to Saliba, I think we were very easy to break down, and with injuries and the whole nervousness of the title race towards the end with Manchester City just brushing aside teams, whereas Arsenal clinging on to like last minute winners to beat teams. I think that took a huge effect, and there were a lot of things to learn from that. Whether he has learned from that or not, well, only time will tell. And I hope he has done so. But this season already, you can see that I think we can all agree that we don't have the best starting lineup, and we still managed to get some decent
Definitely.
wins. For example, the
Especially,
City game, without
yes.
Saka, we managed to get a win. We have not had Partey, who was Arteta's main defensive midfielder from 2020 2021, and he's not featured much this season, apart from the first few games. So I think even in the midfield, last season was a very fixed midfield, which we could not tamper at all, and if tampered, we lost a lot of control in the game. Whereas this season, there's a lot of permutations going on and we still managed to have some sort of an in-game control.
Coming to the midfield, Arafat, do you think Declan Rice has completely changed the dimensions of Arsenal's play? Because I mean, Deepak keeps mentioning how important he has been for you guys. Uh,
Yeah,
who do you think is Arsenal's best signing under Arteta? That one signing, not homegrown talent.
under Arteta, I think the best signing, a couple at least would be. I mean, I'm not talking about this season because it's maybe a bit too
Yeah,
early. Declan
too early.
Rice has been so far a excellent signing. He still has, I think, a lot of technical areas where he could improve, such as to reach a Rodri level. But but so far, I think Odegaard has been a great signing for 30 million from Real Madrid. I mean, he got us 15 goals last season. That's incredible, and he leads the pressing structure of Arsenal. He's pretty much the coordinator of all our out of possession structure. So Odegaard has been really, really good. He's having a little slump in form, maybe injury related over the last couple of few games, but I'm sure he'll come good.
Yeah, I was
Ben
going to say he's
White.
had a very bad start to the season as a Newcastle Odegaard, because he scored
I
15
think he's
non-penalty goals last season. That's
goals.
an
Yeah,
incredible number of goals to come in from an attacking midfielder.
midfield. Yep. This season, I think again, it's something to do with the structural changes in the midfield, especially with Partey not being there, and also with the teams kind of figuring out.
I was about to mention that because whenever
Yeah,
Odegaard gets the ball in and around the penalty area, the teams are
yep,
waiting to try to, get the ball off him.
exactly,
So
Yeah, I
the
think
exactly.
fans
people have
get
Yeah,
figured
worried.
out that
Yeah, the
yeah,
Odegaard
fans
is
get
the
worried when he
heartbeat
gets
of
the
that
ball there.
team.
yep,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think, and
and
that's sort of worrying for me, because if Odegaard is sort of blocked off, your attacking play falls off a cliff sometimes, and that's, I think,
yep.
the most concerning part of Arsenal's play.
Of course, yeah, because last season I think most of our attacks came from the right hand side, especially in the absence of Jesus. We were able to use Odegaard and Saka and Ben White overlapping to create attacks. And this season, I think some of the receiving lines to Odegaard have been figured out by opposing teams, so we have not been able to use Odegaard. But that said, it's not like he's had a very bad start. He was excellent in that PSV game, our first Champions League game of this season. He was really, really good. I think he got a goal or a couple of goals. I can't quite remember, but yeah, he was good in that game. He was excellent against Manchester United. He got the goal with that run into the box right after United scored. So yeah, he's been good, uh, but I think the last few games he's kind of been missing, especially against Chelsea. He's been completely.
But
He,
kudos to Arsenal because in spite of they are probably the best two players being one was unavailable, the other one has been out of form, but they're still performing and scoring the goals, and they are almost at the top of the league.